Hey movie fans. A popular debate among nerd circles is the topic of what's the best Batman movie of all time. The character has seen constant reinvention over the years, with each version focusing on different aspects of the character. Some people love the gothic style and tone of the Tim Burton movies, some people love the gritty realism and villains of the Nolan films, while others love the detective story and dark brooding of the Pattinson version. But for me, the best Batman movie of all time combines all of those elements into one definitive Batman experience. Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Released in theaters on Christmas Day 1993, the film was a spin-off to the incredibly popular Batman the Animated Series that debuted on Cartoon Network in 1992. Originally, the movie was set to be a straight-to-video release, but during production, Warner Bros. Made the decision to put the movie in theaters instead. Except, Warner Bros. Didn't want to put forward the money to properly advertise for the movie for its Christmas release, resulting in the movie flopping at the box office, making a worldwide gross of $5.8 million, losing out to movies like The Pelican Brief, Tombstone, and Mrs. Doubtfire. Sadly, Warner Bros. Would not learn their lesson about failing to market an incredible hand-drawn animated movie, as they would make the same mistake 6 years later with another box office flop turned cult classic, in The Iron Giant. I bring up The Iron Giant because my discovery of both The Iron Giant and Mask of the Phantasm as a kid follows the exact same path. I, like a lot of people apparently, didn't see either movie in theaters, but I'm gonna give myself a pass on Mask of the Phantasm because I was only a few months old at that point. However, I saw Mask of the Phantasm and Iron Giant replayed time and time again on Cartoon Network. It was almost like WB was saying, yeah, we know we screwed up theatrically, now watch it on TV and please go out and buy the DVD. But I feel like Mask of the Phantasm played on TV all the time, especially during Halloween season, given its darker tone. Between Mask of the Phantasm and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Cartoon Network during Halloween was fantastic. But whether I realized it or not, both Phantasm and Zombie Island would end up laying the groundwork for my love of not one, but two genres I talk a lot about on this channel: mystery and horror. Batman Mask of the Phantasm is basically a murder mystery where a new character named the Phantasm comes to Gotham and starts knocking off members of the mob. All the while, Batman is getting blamed for the crimes due to the two characters' very similar appearances, and as the story progresses, we learn that it's more than just the costumes that make Phantasm and Batman very similar. Like any good mystery, the story presents several believable suspects as to who could be behind the mask, while also throwing in a few fun twists and red herrings that we'll talk more about once we get into spoilers. Design-wise, the Phantasm itself is pretty much perfect to me. It's a basic design with not a ton of detail, but boy do you remember everything about it. It almost has hints of a horror movie villain, as you've got an iconic mask and weapon combo, something along the lines of Michael Myers and a kitchen knife or Jason Voorhees and his machete. The Phantasm absolutely creeped me out as a kid, looking like a cross between Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles and the Ghost of Christmas Future. Isn't that right, Joker?
He looks more like the Ghost of Christmas Future.
But the thing that's forever stuck with me the most about the character is the Phantasm's voice.
Your angel of death awaits.
Literal goosebumps every single time. It wasn't until I got much older and rewatched the movie now that I realized just how cool what they do with the Phantasm's voice really is, but again, we'll circle back to that when we talk about spoilers. Since Mask of the Phantasm exists in the same world as Batman the Animated Series, that show's voice cast returns for this, so you know it's going to be a home run from the voice talent. As any child of the 90s will tell you, Kevin Conroy is Batman. From the animated series to the Arkham games and beyond, Kevin Conroy will forever be my favorite Batman and the voice I hear in my head when reading the comics. And as great as he is as Batman across the board, I think this is his best turn as both Batman and Bruce Wayne. There's a lot of emotional weight that's put on Bruce Wayne in this movie, and Conroy makes you feel the weight every time.
Please, I need it to be different now. I didn't count on being happy.
There's little nuances that Conroy brings, little details that I absolutely love. Case in point, when he first meets Andrea Beaumont, a new character introduced for this movie, he's talking about a promise he made to his parents, and he subtly slips into Batman voice mid-conversation.
Have you kept your vow?
So far.
And since we have Conroy as Batman, we also get Mark Hamill returning as the Joker. And just like how this is the best Conroy has ever been as Batman, This is the strongest Hamill has ever been as the Joker. He is clearly having so much fun being the absolute wild card of the movie. He brings a fun, chaotic energy, but absolutely flips the switch into something terrifying and menacing in a split second.
That's what I want to see. A nice big smile.
Which brings us to our third major player in this story, Andrea Beaumont, voiced by Dana Delaney, who actually voiced Lois Lane in a bunch of projects in this DC animated universe. Andrea Beaumont, however, was a completely new character created for this movie along with her father, Carl Beaumont. Andrea is an early love interest to Bruce Wayne that, as the story progresses, becomes more and more of a fascinating contrast to Bruce. But early on, the two have a happy, healthy relationship with the prospect of it being a lifelong relationship, with the couple openly discussing marriage. As they explore a world showcase, an idyllic futuristic model of what the world could be in the future, they themselves are a model couple. They are that romanticized version of the future that is bright, happy, and good. But even in this idea of a perfect future, Bruce can't help but to think about his promise. Batman: Mask of the Phantasm also explores a facet of Batman I don't think we get enough in movies. His origin. No, not that part of the origin. We literally never need to see his parents get shot in Crime Alley in a movie ever again. No, what I mean for origin is everything after Crime Alley. What happened to Bruce Wayne to make him Batman after his parents died? What steps did he take to get to that point? What was his thought process? Was there trial and error on some things? Could he have taken a different path at any point in his life? Could he have been happy? Those are the big questions that Mask of the Phantasm asks, and I think those are such fascinating directions to take. It's interesting watching Bruce struggle with genuine happiness. Like he feels guilty that Andrea makes him happy and makes him actually want to move on from his pain.
Just doesn't hurt so bad anymore.
It's a new conflict for the ever-brooding character that's a fresh direction for Bruce, and seeing an ever-sure character struggle with uncertainty makes him that much more relatable.
Don't know. I just don't know!
Eventually, Bruce makes the choice to be happy and proposes to Andrea, who gladly accepts and can't wait to tell her father. But because the universe or destiny had other things in mind for Bruce, the engagement is called off abruptly with no real reason given, leaving Bruce just as alone as he was as a child in that alley, with no ray of hope to bring him back. Bruce turns his back to happiness, turns his back to the light, to embrace the shadows. What follows is by far the most epic first suiting up scene of any Batman movie, and probably of any comic book movie, period. Bruce is standing completely in the shadows, and we never get a clear shot of him because from this point forward, Bruce Wayne is gone, and only the shadows remain. Only Batman remains. Even Alfred, who has known Bruce his entire life, can't hide his shock and fear at what stands before him. The music by Shirley Walker, which has been stellar the entire film, crescendos here in the most spectacular fashion. It's truly epic, but not epic in a heroic sense. It's played like an epic tragedy because that's what Batman is, a tragic character. Yeah, he's super cool and all, but he's a character built out of pain and loss who could have had his whole life play out differently if just a few things had changed. With a greater understanding and sympathy for our hero, we cut back to his antithesis and the main driving force of the movie, the Phantasm. Having already taken out the mobster Chucky Saul, the mysterious Angel of Death stalks their next victim in Buzz Bronski. What follows is a scene that lived in my childhood brain rent-free for years. Taking place in a graveyard, this is basically a full-on horror movie scene. I wasn't the horror fan that I am today as a child, so this scene absolutely terrified me. The atmosphere is moody and tense, with a masked killer toying with their prey. It's a classic horror movie chase scene as you can get, even getting a memorable kill from the Phantasm, albeit off-screen to maintain that ever-important PG rating. Although for a PG movie, the movie isn't afraid to show its characters battered and bloodied. Both Joker and Batman have more than their fair share of scrapes, cuts, and busted lips in this movie, The final fight between the two actually reminds me a little of the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, when Spidey fights Green Goblin. Both of those fights had a visceral energy to them and moments that made me actually wince and feel the characters were doing damage to each other. The other big moment in the film where Batman really gets knocked on his butt, though, to a level that we don't really see in any other Batman movie, is at around 2/3 of the way through the movie. Phantasm goes to kill again, only to find out that Joker has beaten them to it. Batman chases the Phantasm and winds up being chased himself by the Gotham PD. But unlike some other Batman chase scenes like the one in Batman Begins or The Dark Knight Rises, Batman is in legitimate danger the entire time, to a level we rarely see from the Caped Crusader. Bloodied and battered, he only survives and manages to escape because of a conveniently timed arrival by Andrea Beaumont. It's a refreshing change of pace seeing Batman so vulnerable and so exposed. At the end of the day, Bruce is still flesh and blood, just a broken and damaged individual. So from here on out, we're going to dive into the final third of the movie, so I'm just going to throw up the old spoiler warning in case you haven't seen this 30-year-old movie and don't want it spoiled for you, because again, I cannot recommend this movie enough if you haven't already seen it. With Andrea saving Bruce and taking him back to Wayne Manor, the two seem to be working on patching things up and choosing each other again. It seems like despite all the pain and all the loss in Batman's life so far, the door to happiness isn't closed just yet. There's still a chance. Andrea leaves to go take care of some business, but when she leaves, Bruce starts to put some pieces together on this big Phantasm mystery. We finally get our big exposition dump, our big reveal, among many other reveals, is that surprise, surprise, Andrea Beaumont is in fact the Phantasm. So, as much as I love this movie, and it's one of my all-time favorites, I do have a slight nitpick with the finale here. I think the reveal of the Phantasm falls a little flat. The movie basically shows Andrea as the Phantasm without the mask, followed by the big explanation of what happened, then her as the Phantasm in the full getup in front of the Joker, who immediately calls her out on it.
I'm impressed, lady.
Then this lady goes,
So you figured it out.
like, yeah, you literally just showed us everything right before this reveal. Just move a few things around sequentially and it works a whole lot better as a big payoff to this big epic mystery you've been building. Because up until that point, they were doing some really good hints and teases about who could be the Phantasm. But what I like even more is that the movie goes out of its way to give the audience red herrings about the Phantasm's identity. In the few lines the Phantasm does have in the movie, it's the same voice actor as Carl Beaumont, Andrea's father.
Joker, your angel of death awaits.
But all the money in the world means little if you don't have loved ones to share it with.
Super nitpicky things aside, what exactly is the Phantasm's deal? What is the bigger picture at play here? It's revealed that Andrea's father owed a bunch of money to several dangerous mobsters, and instead of paying them back, her father fled in the middle of the night along with Andrea, which is why it seemed like she abandoned Bruce right before they were set to get married. Sadly, the mob found Andrea's father and sent someone to kill him. So out of revenge, Andrea returned to Gotham under the guise of the Phantasm to take out the mobsters that had her father killed. And now she's here to kill the last one. The one that actually killed her father. The Joker. It's a brilliant way to weave Joker seamlessly into the story while never fully committing to an origin of some kind to Joker, which I always think is a bad idea. Andrea being revealed as the Phantasm truly brings the story full circle and highlights the parallels between her and Bruce. The Phantasm is a dark reflection of Batman, both in costume, but more importantly in what he could have been. Both characters are ones so destroyed by grief and trauma at the loss of a parent or parents that they only see the mission ahead of them, and not what they could have had if they chose a different path. Batman pleads with Andrea when the movie hits us with one of the best exchanges in the entire film.
What will vengeance solve?
If anyone knows the answer to that, Bruce, it's you.
It's a moment that I feel like Robert Pattinson's Batman movie would repeat to a certain degree in its climax when Batman beats down one of Riddler's thugs who calls themselves Vengeance.
I'm vengeance.
Both times, it's the character being faced with the harsh reality of what unchecked vengeance can actually do. At this point, Joker's explosives that he had set up start going off, and he unleashes what I can only describe as the single greatest Joker laugh of all time. Our three main players are now in the middle of absolute chaos, but my favorite detail is where they all are. The big, epic finale is at the same World's Fair Bruce and Andrea were at when the world was still bright and optimistic and happiness still laid before them. Now the fair, which had been abandoned for years, is now going up in smoke, being destroyed by the actions of a madman. Just like how the World's Fair was a metaphor for Bruce and Andrea's earlier relationship, one that represents all the good things that could happen, it now represents what their relationship has become. Neglected over time with no hope of ever coming back, it's now up in flames at the hands of the Joker, the catalyst of its destruction. Andrea takes Joker, and the two are presumed to have died in the fire as Batman is cast down into the sewers. We find him back in the Batcave being comforted by Alfred. I'm actually really glad this scene is in here as it allows Alfred a chance to shine, because at the end of the day, I think Alfred is the reason Bruce is the way he is. The Phantasm and Batman are so similar, but Bruce had a support system, a moral anchor that could keep him tethered and keep him from falling into the abyss. Alfred fully acknowledges that he worries Batman gets dangerously close to becoming the very thing he fights every night, but he thanks heaven that hasn't happened yet. It's a sweet moment that shows just how significant Alfred is in the larger Batman mythos. Even when life continues to knock Batman down, Alfred is always there to pick him back up. We find out Andrea has somehow survived and looks to be leaving Gotham and all the painful memories behind. She tells a stranger that she's all alone now. The movie then throws in one last parallel between our two characters as it pans over to reveal Batman standing atop a building, also all alone. But whereas Andrea's mission is done, Batman's story and his mission are never done. The bat signal lights up and the music swells. Batman swings down in epic fashion to answer the call, to fight another day, to continue to fulfill his promise. It's not a big, heroic, epic ending, but one in keeping with the rest of the film's emphasis on tragedy. Batman didn't save the day. He didn't stop the villain. When you really get down to it, Batman fails in this movie. I will forever applaud Mask of the Phantasm for actually showing Batman as the flawed, broken hero he is. But that's what makes Batman special. He's the great tragic figure that is defined by his pain, but doesn't let that pain become him. No matter how much the world throws at him, no matter how much pain and loss Bruce suffers, Batman endures. He is vengeance. He is the night. He is Batman.